So actually, I've been thinking about the great introduction, thank you, Ms. Neely, and thinking about what my fellow panelists have said. I think instead of my prepared remarks, which were admittedly a little obvious, being from the Open Science Federation and this being about shared science, I think everyone knows what I think about sharing science. Do it. Full stop. That was easy. And instead, I'd like to tell a little bit of a story about the history of Science Online and what brings everyone here tonight and online, and why we all share in not only this event, but all the future events in Science Online Seattle and in sort of the Science Online universe. And I think I'll start in 2005. So in 2005, Anton Zeiger was already a blogger. In fact, Anton was an Uber blogger, deserving of the title because he organized offline events for bloggers to get to know each other. He'd already organized, I think by then, 3 conferences for bloggers in different fields. Some of them science, most of them not. And the brilliance of Anton was to know that what we then called Web 2.0 wasn't all that great at creating real online communities, that people needed to meet offline, face-to-face, to become friends, to actually build the trust, to have new collaborations, which then created real community online. Around the same time, the other founding organizer of Science Online, Bora Zivkovic, was a PhD candidate. Bora was a blogger. He was going to science conferences and meeting other bloggers in science and sort of enjoying the kismet that happens when you bond over that, everything related to blogging about science. And Bora realized that he wanted to have a conference for science bloggers, but he wasn't sure he could pull it off. So then he got together with Anton, and Anton said to Bora, we can do this if we do it together. And right there, the point of origin for Science Online was a partnership, so a collaboration. It couldn't have been either of them alone. And so they did. That was around 2006, started organizing it. And in January 2007 was the first ever Science Online, but it wasn't called Science Online. It was called the 2007 North Carolina Science Blogging Conference. Very descriptive and scientific. And it was all about blogging and science, but what happened was so awesome, not even just for the reasons that Bora and Anton expected. It was awesome because, in a way that sort of explains, why is the College of the Environment and Folded and the Open Science Federation on a panel together? Well, this is great, but we immediately feel in the world of science that we should explain why we're on this panel together, because we're from totally different fields, really. And what was great about the North Carolina Science Blogging Conference was that fields didn't matter. So going to a typical conference, you wonder, am I in this field enough to belong here? And when you went to this conference, if you blogged and it was about science, you belonged, and that's all that mattered. Other divisions that were sort of erased by the nature of focusing on a methodology instead of focusing on anything else would include, say, differences between professions or really whole industries. So people were at this conference from education, people were there from journalism, people were there from research, of course. And people talk about, well, scientists and science educators should get together more often, they should work together more often. But this conference actually did something about it. It put them all in the same room, and they ended up creating all sorts of collaborations which never otherwise they would have. And maybe the most important division bridged by the North Carolina Science Blogging Conference would have to be this biggest division in the world of science between science and society. And that's obviously appropriate with Folded at the table, but interesting about blogging was that people were there who were not professionals in science at all. They were just super enthused about science. And it's enough in the meritocracy of the internet to sort of be a great science blogger without having to be a professional in science. It was a way people could contribute to the world of science without having degrees and without having a job in science otherwise. Now, the first event then in 2007 was a smash for all of these reasons. And it was super exciting. And in that second year, planning the second conference, the Burroughs Wellcome Fund wrote a big check, lots of doors started to open, and an interesting figure emerged about the nature of the 2008 conference, which was that 60% of the people there were not from North Carolina. happened, in other words, right away. They proved the value of this experience for all people in science, regardless of where they were from. And in the feedback round and in the planning for the third conference, because these are unconferences, so everybody participating helps to plan them, right? And in the feedback round, it emerged that the North Carolina Science Blogging Conference was sort of the wrong name. And it was the community that decided to rename it ScienceOnline. And so again, there's something exemplary of this sort of spirit of community ownership, which I hope brings everyone here, which makes ScienceOnline in the Research Triangle, I'm sort of pointing southeast for the internet there, which makes that so wonderful. And I want everyone here, and I know I speak for my fellow organizers on this, I want everyone here to participate in planning future ScienceOnline Seattle events as well, which is why most of this is essentially unscripted and unplanned, so we can make of it what we will. Now, I know we've got plenty of time to talk about shared science and open science. That's the subject tonight. But I hope a little bit of history brings us all to the table and even makes sense of our awesome panel.